Just recently, I witnessed the funniest thing ever on the internet.
Oh, wow!
No, not that.
The first time since 25 years ago when Pete Gillen had God Sham God. Rest in peace, Pete Gillen.
No, not that either. It was this. PFF analyst says Najee Harris was the worst first-round pick in last year's draft. Yes, you heard that right. PFF has done it again. Their analyst, Brad Spielberger, said on 93.7 The Fan yesterday that Najee Harris was the worst first-round pick in 2021. I need to pause. I don't even know if I should continue or if I need to. Like, what needs to be said to this? But this is big, deep news, goddammit. I have something to say, so the show goes on. His explanation. He says probably means Najee Harris was probably the worst pick in the first round last year. It's not a smart use of resources. He's a good player. They're going to run him into the ground and give him 400 touches a season. So, yeah, it says year. I think he means yeah. He'll be fine for his rookie contract. It comes back to the surplus value potential. No clue what that even means for that draft pick. If you landed a good player at a different position, they could have been so beneficial for your roster. Gone so far, done so much for you. Listen, the thought of a running back being a low-value pick isn't the most outrageous thing to say. I mean, it's been said before. I even think there's some credence to it. But after seeing what Najee Harris did last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers behind a cruddy offensive line, how the fuck is he the worst pick in last year's draft? Let's break down this concept of worst first-round pick. So last year, another running back, which this guy doesn't really like in terms of positional value, was also taken in the first round. What did he do for the Jacksonville Jaguars? I'm talking about Travis Etienne. Absolutely zero. So not sure how Najee Harris could be worse up to this point, and we're comparing the same position. But that's neither here nor there. Let's break down Najee Harris versus the rest of the first-round draft class. He was tied for 5th, according to Pro Football Reference, in terms of approximate value, behind Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Mac Jones, and Jamar Chase. So I even think this PFF guy would admit that Najee Harris played really well last year. I mean, he performed as a top pick, and as of right now, he's absolutely not the worst first-rounder of last year's draft class. But that's not exactly what he's saying, because he alludes to it not being a smart pick because of his positional value and him being a running back, long term at least. So let's discuss that sentiment. Could have landed a good player at a different position. Could have gone so far and done so much for you. The key word here is could have. Could have, would have, should have. I should have six-pack abs right now. I could have made the PGA Tour as a professional golfer. My girlfriend should be Holly Berry, but she's not. So you guys get my point. Just because you pick a different position doesn't necessarily mean the player's just automatically going to be successful. Ask Steeler fans about Artie Burns, Jarvis Jones, Ziggy Hood, Devin Bush. There's still hope for him. I get value for running back isn't the highest when you compare it to the other positions on the field, but it's not that bad where you could just throw away draft picks as opposed to drafting a stud running back. And I just don't understand, just because a dude might be able to make it past his rookie deal for your team at a position outside of running back, it automatically means it's going to be a slam dunk success for you long term. I mean, you could re-sign a dude and then they just fall off a cliff. You could re-sign a dude and then they get injured. You could re-sign someone, and even though they're available, maybe they're playing well, now you got to deal with the cap consequences. Maybe they take up a huge chunk of your salary cap going forward. So it's all relative into how you view that success. For example, yeah, there's probably going to be some people in last year's first-round draft class that are more beneficial to their respective teams long-term than Najee Harris was to the Steelers. But don't forget, he was taking 20. Some of the guys that we're talking about, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Jamar Chase, are all picked in like the top 10, top 15. So in terms of who was available at that point, still looking like a pretty damn good pick. Far from the worst. But let's get rid of where these players were drafted. Let's get rid of first-round labels. Let's just stick with the Steelers and talk about draft picks. Like, I have no doubt Muth will probably have the longer, more sustained career here in Pittsburgh versus Najee Harris. But I think that's just the name of the game when you're talking about these different positions. But what does it really mean, though? Because let's say Najee Harris plays out his rookie contract. He plays well. And we get to the discussion of should the Steelers re-sign Najee Harris. That has no bearing on whether or not Najee Harris was a good draft pick in 2021. These are two different topics of conversation, because if we're just playing the game of, man, just because they stayed on the team for 7, 8 years or a full decade is the weight for whether or not we grade a draft pick as good or not, then we would say Le'Veon Bell was the worst second-round pick in the 2013 draft. And I don't think anyone agrees with that. What's funny, too, is if we didn't draft Najee Harris last year, what would everyone be saying about the Steelers right now? The team needs a running back. And how would we address that? Either through free agency, where we'd sign a guy at probably a higher clip than what Najee Harris is getting paid, and at far less production, or we draft someone. And I don't think any of these dudes in the running back class can hold a candle to Najee Harris. So the real thing to say is I don't really see good value in drafting a running back. Still don't like the pick, but you can't say it's the worst pick in that first round last year. Come on, man. But if you think he's going to suck these next few years and actually be a terrible pick, then that's fine, but that wasn't what was said. It was actually the opposite, that Najee Harris is a pretty good player. Moral of the story, draft picks aren't guarantees. And after seeing 1 year of last year's first-round draft class, I'm willing to take my chances that Najee Harris has more success than at least 2/3 of that first round, while you can continue to say that he was the worst pick. My only question is, how much money would we be betting on who's right? Because if the amount's high, I'd be a pretty damn rich man. That's it for Big Deke News. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chillin'. Peace.